and welcome back to my English kitchen. Today we're going to make some slightly different meatballs, beef meatballs, but we're going to do them in a sauce of Cavolo Nero, black kale, with some raisins, tomato sauce, maybe just a little splash of port wine, since we're back from the Douro pork manufacturing region yesterday, and we thought we'd do this just as a little memoir of our trip, although it's not a Portuguese dish at all. And we will be serving this over bucatini, spaghetti that looks like a hose pipe. It's got a little hole in the middle, but it really grabs sauce well. So let's get started on the assembly. So to start our meatball assembly, here we have 2 banana shallots, 2 cloves of garlic chopped, and some smoked bacon lardons, which we're going to cook down and soften, let go to room temperature, then mix in with the rest of our meatball mixture, which we'll show you in a minute. Here's the beef we're using for our meatballs. We'll have this packet and half of another. It's British beef, please note, 12% fat. We don't want dry meatballs. We'll have a little bit of breadcrumbs in our meatball mixture, and that will help soak up the fat and stop them from drying out. Here are our lardons, shallots and garlic cooked. Please note, we cooked this down, not so much to brown the bacon and onions, but certainly to cook off all the water that came off the lardons. But this will still give us a nice flavour in the meatballs that won't be raw. And the main reason I use shallots is they're slightly milder flavoured than onions. Here are the other ingredients added to our sautéed shallots and lardons. We have about 60 grams of breadcrumbs, an egg to help bind the meatballs, generous bunch of flat leaf parsley chopped up, 2 to 3 tablespoons of Parmigiano Reggiano, and 2 to 3 tablespoons of grated extra mature cheddar cheese. Then we're going to mix our meat in gently. We don't want to really force it into a paste. Form our meatballs and bake them. Well, here are our meatballs all mixed up in an oiled baking dish. Ingredients were, as we said, it's 1.5 pounds of beef. I added a splash of Manzanilla to give it a nice spicy flavour, but with white wine. Splash of milk, and if you wanted a secret sauce, it had a couple of shakes of Maggi sauce, which I always find works really well with things like these meatballs. Meanwhile, into the oven for half an hour, 190°C, 375 Fahrenheit. Turn them halfway, and then we'll start with the sauce. Here are the meatballs as they came out of the oven after 30-35 minutes. I turned them halfway through, nice and firm, rustic look. I'm going to cook the sauce up now. Tomato and kale, black kale, Cavolo Nero. I'm going to pour it over this just to let the meatballs soak up the sauce a little bit before we cook the bucatini. Here's a close-up look at the meatballs, just so you can see they have a nice bit of texture to them with the cheeses and the shallots added. These are going to be delicious, I just know it. And here we go, folks, with the de-stemmed and sliced Cavolo Nero. It's a beautiful vegetable. I love it with pasta. 4 garlic cloves sliced up. We're going to sprinkle a little bit of pepper flakes in here, and after it's cooked down a little bit, we'll add the tomato sauce. It's tomato and basil sauce, some raisins, and a little splash of port. So here's the Cavolo Nero. Tomato sauce, garlic, pepper flakes, raisins, and I rinsed the jars of the sauce out with port, a little bit of tawny port, not a particularly special one, but it's good enough. With the raisins and the peppers and the meatballs, really add some sweetness to this sauce, offset the Cavolo Nero. So I'm hoping this will be an absolute bust. We'll reduce this a little bit, then we're going to pour it over the meatballs and let them soak it in for a little while. So here we are, finished and served. Looks good. The bucatinis worked out beautifully. So as we said, this is some beef meatballs with a bit of cheese and herbs, served with a potato, tomato, Cavolo Nero and raisin sauce with a little port splashed in it, and I think it's going to work out really well. I'll come back and tell you how I think it tastes after.